Put a W in the chat. We stole $8,000 from him. W.
That clip going viral in internet anarchist tweeting. YouTube needs to do something to stop people like this from abusing the system to bully smaller creators. So there, it appears that this attention has garnered a good update. That claim against internet anarchists was closed, so thankfully that part's resolved. But the smaller creator aspect, it's a very big thing. Because you know how we mentioned the Thumb Media affiliate company up top? Right? They were the ones who seemingly claimed Hassan's video for Aiden. Well, they are apparently doing the same thing for videos about iShowSpeed, who's another massive creator. And those claims specifically seem to be going after personalities with much smaller audiences. Many others, including, once again, Hassan slamming iShowSpeed for going after these small creators.
But this is transparent greed, you know what I mean? Like, you're a multi-fucking millionaire and you're milking small content creators.
And again, if this is outright theft, you're just taking a piece, you're not doing anything to it, you're putting it somewhere else and you're monetizing it. Yeah, I get that, but when something is fair use, you fucking leave it be. That's scumbag behavior, and hey, I think everyone gets like one pass. Sometimes you're working with a company or a group that accidentally overextends, but when you have people like Aiden Ross so transparently celebrating this, fuck that person. You're gonna have hangers-on who just kind of want to, siphon all that clout, but there is a genuine hate for people like this in the industry. But hey, that's the story, some of my takeaway, and of course now I pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts here? When you leave that comment, I'll say, oh man, I got ahead of myself. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. It's Tuesday, I hope you're having a good one, and I'm not just saying that because I want to give you a friendly reminder that over at beautifulbastard.com, you got a few days left if you want to snag one of these awesome graphic tees. By next Monday, I'm gonna abracadabra those things out of here, and I'm putting a link in the description so you can snag one of those while you can. But hey, buckle up, hit that like button, and let's keep talking news. And then, the war on porn is getting real. With yesterday, PornHub blocking users in Utah from accessing the site over a new age verification law. And that law, which goes into effect today, requires websites hosting adult content to verify that users are 18 or older. But that means, under this new policy, every time a resident visits a porn site, they will be required to provide a government ID, where you're not just clicking a box, and companies that do not comply can be held liable if they're sued because a minor was able to access their content. So if you're in Utah and you try to log on for your nightly PornHub or midday PornHub, or I'm not gonna judge you, but whenever you did it, you were instead met with a video from adult performer Cherie DeVille. And not because she was like an angry stepmom stuck in a washer dryer. Rather, it's a video of her explaining why access has been blocked for Utah residents.
While safety and compliance are at the forefront of our mission, giving your ID card every time you want to visit an adult platform is not the most effective solution for protecting our users, and in fact, will put children and your privacy at risk. In addition, mandating age verification without proper enforcement gives platforms the opportunity to choose whether or not to comply. As we've seen in other states, this just drives traffic to sites with far fewer safety measures in place. Very few sites are able to compare to the robust trust and safety measures we currently have in place.
Cherie also going on to say that in order to be effective, any legislation needs to be enforced against all adult content platforms, and arguing that the most effective way to protect both kids and adults is to identify users based on their device and allow access to certain content based on device identification, and even including a link to its Help Center page on how to set up parental controls on desktop and mobile devices. With that, Cherie concluding,
until a real solution is offered, we've made the difficult decision to completely disable access to our website in your region.
And the big key thing here is many experts also agree with these claims that age verification is not effective, and instead it actually drives children to unsafe sites while simultaneously exposing adults who provide highly sensitive personal info to data breaches, hacks, and extortion. And others arguing this could just be the beginning, with one expert telling Axios, I think this has a huge chilling effect on anybody who's operating in the sexual wellness space, as well as obviously sexual speech of all kinds, including adult content. And, this goes way beyond Utah. Right? Louisiana was actually the first state to enact a law requiring ID-based age verification for websites that host adult content, with that going into effect back in January. And since then, Mississippi and Arkansas have also signed copycat bills into law. And this is similar proposals are working their way through legislatures in more than a dozen other states, with experts saying these proposals don't just limit sexual speech and harm the livelihoods of adult performers. As the New York Times explains, these restrictions could also remake the internet for millions of adults, ushering in a tectonic cultural shift to a stricter age-gated online world. And adding, civil liberties groups say that certain bills could make it difficult for Americans, including minors, to view online information they have a constitutional right to see, violating free speech principles. Right? And that's because many of these bills go beyond just regulating platforms like PornHub, right? Because porn sites are not the only places where you can find porn. In fact, a recent survey by Common Sense Media found that 1 in 3 teens seek out porn just by looking on social media. So as a result, many of these proposals that we're talking about here could limit access to social media sites both directly and indirectly. So in order to comply, we're looking at a future where social media sites could essentially be forced to implement much more strict age verification programs, like requiring government ID. And with some of these bills, they're so vague as to what content is harmful, which is why you have so many opponents saying they're using this veil of like porn is evil, save the children as a way to crack down on the livelihoods and rights of everyday American adults. With all this, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on this news? And then, landlords are people too, y'all. We gotta stop dehumanizing this marginalized community. No, that, an obvious joke to pretty much everyone except these landlords in Ontario, several dozen of whom protested in the streets for faster evictions. Because they're upset that a pandemic moratorium on eviction hearings caused a backlog in the courts. Meaning, according to them, tenants who don't pay rent have been occupying apartments for months. So with completely straight faces, they held up signs reading things like "Stop robbing, stop stealing, stop abusing, landlords deserve fair laws." And yes, landlords are people too. As well as one reading "Tenant Evil" with a drawing that showed a tenant whipping a small landlord who's pulling a building like a rickshaw cart. And on top of all that, you had a person with a megaphone doing a call and response shouting "My property," to which the crowd chanted back "My rights." But while for many of you this seems like bizarre world, the Landlord and Tenant Board does take these concerns seriously. And to speed up cases, it already said that it would add 40 new adjudicators this month and shift to virtual hearings. So there, a watchdog group criticized the move, saying that it's inaccessible for people who have a disability, don't speak English, or lack high-speed internet. And adding that over several months into 2021, tenants were present at only 44% of virtual hearings compared to 86% of landlords. But the policy aside, the sense of victimhood and like the lack of self-awareness from some of the landlords, it's astounding. Or like, I understand that certain laws and certain systems need to be put into place to prevent abuse. But at the end of the day, it's just hard to empathize with the haves feeling like they're being victimized by the have-nots. Especially when we're talking about a system that at its core is just haves trying to figure out how they can milk have-nots of every dime they can. Like, I'm not gonna villainize everyone that owns property, but I'm not gonna go to your pity party. And then, no matter the size of your business, big or small, we can all benefit from cutting costs in the most effective and efficient way possible. And that's exactly where the fantastic sponsor and partner of today's PDS comes in, Stamps.com/Phil. Stamps.com automatically tells you your cheapest and fastest shipping options with rates you can't find anywhere else, like up to 84% off USPS and UPS. Are you selling products online? They seamlessly connect with every major marketplace and shopping cart. And personally, I love how convenient and cost-effective this is for me and my business. I get all the mailing and shipping done without even leaving my house. And you can print official US postage from your computer 24/7. They even send you a free scale so you'll have everything you need to get started. Also, need a package pickup? Easily schedule it through your Stamps.com dashboard. Y'all, Stamps.com saves me time and money. It frees up the time that allows me to really focus on producing the show, creating the next drop over a beautiful bastard, and spending more time with my family. So set you and your business up for success and get started today with Stamps.com. Sign up at Stamps.com/Phil for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. We're talking no long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com/Phil. And then Elon Musk's Starship is in a bit of trouble. Right? Elon says that the next Starship could be ready to launch in 6 to 8 weeks. That is, if he gets FAA approval, and several environmental groups are now suing the agency to stop it from doing just that. This after last month's inaugural test flight of the first fully integrated Starship, the biggest and most powerful rocket ever built, ended in a massive fireball. Now, SpaceX supporters claim that this was a success given how far it got, but activists argued that it just proves that the program is far too dangerous to continue. So the plaintiffs are asking the court to throw out the FAA license allowing SpaceX to launch 20 Starships per year for the next 5 years, and pointing out that in the last 5 years, that Starship program has had at least 8 explosions at the site. Explosions that spewed debris all over the surrounding area, which environmentalists say is home to many federally protected and endangered species. And this most recent explosion hurling large concrete chunks, stainless steel sheets, metal, and other objects thousands of feet from the launch pad, according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And that plume of pulverized concrete also sending material over 6 miles northwest, with resident support Isabel also reporting particles of ash raining down on their neighborhoods. Also, while that brush fire that was sparked in Boca Chica State Park only burned 3.5 acres, others caused by rocket mishaps have burned dozens. But it also doesn't end there, because environmentalists are also concerned that even the recovery efforts meant to clean up the mess could cause further harm, with trucks and heavy equipment barging through to pick up residual metal and concrete. You also have people angry that the FAA permits SpaceX to shut down Boca Chica Beach, an otherwise public site, for up to 800 hours per year, which the lawsuit says affects local indigenous people's ability to hold ceremonies in the area. You've also seen housing prices in Brownsville rising sharply over recent years, which many residents blame on Musk and SpaceX drawing an influx of newcomers. So there, others have defended the company's presence, arguing that this has brought long-needed jobs and economic activity to the area, which is why if you go down there now, you'll find people just split between either loving or hating SpaceX, with many of those who are not a fan of SpaceX being indigenous and linking SpaceX to a long history of them getting pushed off their land.
You know, Elon Musk is on his quest to colonize Mars, and he's beginning by colonizing, our community that's on the front lines of the U.S.-Mexico border. We're tired of living under the constant threat of flammable, rocket explosions because of SpaceX. It's at the point now where, I hear a noise, my family and I, and we wonder, is that SpaceX?
But as far as now, the FAA is overseeing an accident investigation and has ordered all SpaceX Starships grounded until it's certain that the public safety will not be compromised. So we're gonna have to wait on that, as well as this lawsuit. And then Hollywood writers are officially on strike, marking the first time the Writers Guild has taken to the picket lines in 15 years, with that last one in 07-08 shutting down production for months. And the Guild's negotiating committee releasing a statement last night claiming that the negotiations with the studio representatives have faltered, explaining over the course of the negotiation, we explained how the company's business practices have slashed our compensation and residuals and undermined our working conditions. And adding, the studio's responses to our proposals have been wholly insufficient given the existential crisis writers are facing. The company's behavior has created a gig economy inside a union workforce, and their immovable stance in this negotiation has betrayed a commitment to further devaluing the profession of writing. And so now this strike is expected to halt production in the film and television industries, with some being hit sooner rather than later, and this is going to have an impact across industries, because jobs in catering and other industries also rely on productions for business.